What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very welcome along to Thursday night's Late Night Agenda. We have a really busy stream in store for you this evening. Yesterday was a fairly quiet one with Liverpool news, but today a lot different. We've got the Steven Gerrard podcast to talk about. We'll be asking how much money we can expect the Reds to spend this summer. Of course, we'll try to figure out the situation with the futures of the likes of Ibrahima Konate, Alexis McAllister, Curtis Jones. We'll have a chat about Diamande. And of course, I want to have a little chat about the rip-off World Cup prices that we're seeing out there in, well, football land, ripping off customers and, again, not really making it a game of the people. So tonight we've got lots to get through. As always, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your support. Anything you'd like to discuss, if we don't cover it, please feel free to stick it into the comments and I'll do my best to get there. I want to, again, just say a thank you. I've really enjoyed being back with you guys over the past few days. It's great to be here. And, of course, we know the Reds are in action this Saturday, 12:45 against Manchester City. The preview for that is coming out at 10:45 tonight. It's already in the can and scheduled, ready to go. So as soon as we finish this stream, that should be out minutes later. Right, lots to get through, so let's get stuck into it. The first poll that we have tonight, let me just remember what I wrote exactly. The first poll question is, do you believe that we need another big spending summer to be competitive again next season? Now, the reason that I asked this is because lots of reports today to say that Liverpool are probably going to be a bit more measured in their spending this summer. Now, I don't know if we're going to go all the way back to the cheaper days of FSG, but it doesn't seem like superstar signings are going to be coming in the ilk of the likes of last summer, where, of course, we brought in Florian Wirtz, Alexander Isak, and lots of high-profile additions. I'm not saying that Liverpool won't spend this summer, but I'm not expecting a repeat of the outlook or the outlay that we had last summer. So, look, we'll talk about that tonight, what that means. Is it good enough? I'm going to be asking you for your opinion on that, but the poll is running, and have your say on it. Right, let's get into it. Scott, how are you, sir? Said, hello, Craig. Do you think with the Joyce article that Alonso has no chance of being the coach if Slot is sacked? No, I don't. But it's a fair piece. You know, I've always said, Scott, that I understand people having some reservations around the appointment of Xabi Alonso. Any manager that comes in, there's going to be some inherent risk with them. And with Alonso, we would, of course, probably have to look at changing the system. Now, last summer, I feel like, or excuse me, when Arne Slot came in, I feel like not changing to a back three or going with a Ruben Amorim or an Alonso, I understood it because of the profile of the team that we had. But I've always felt that we're not a million miles away now, mate, with the quality of the players that we have and the personnel that we have of being able to adapt the squad to a Xabi Alonso style three at the back. Now, it would require a little bit of expenditure in the central defensive positions, but I think we're closer to it than we were when we appointed Arne Slot, where we were really bedded in with the 4-3-3 and the club wanted to continue down that path. So I understand where Paul Joyce is coming from. I'm not saying 100% rule him in or out, but there are questions about it and it's understandable. For me, it comes down to just getting rid of Arne. That's for me. After that, I'm open to a lot of things. I'm open to Xabi Alonso, I'm open to Julian Nagelsmann, I'm open to other coaches, but we just need to understand that this guy is going to be the guy moving forward. And tonight, we're going to lay out the case of what Steven Gerrard had to say, and we're going to talk about lots more. But I wouldn't write Alonso off, mate, like I've said. But it's a fair piece from Paul, and I can't really push back on it too much. Not that I'd want to. And I understand where he came from with it. But again, I wouldn't be ruling him out just yet. So, with that in mind, let's have a little chat about what Stevie G had to say around the situation. Now, I'm going to read through some synopsis of what Stevens had to say in his interview, but there's also been some really interesting viewpoints from fans who have been talking about quite what that means for Steven Gerrard and for Liverpool moving forward. You know, he was asked, would he be an assistant, as an example? And one thing that really shone through to me in Steven Gerrard's podcast with The Overlap was he doesn't really have belief in Arne. You know, you've seen this in social media today with Reds having their say in what Gerrard had to say. And I think Stephen went about it in a very fair manner. You can see that he isn't really fully believing in the manager. But he did go out of his way to say that he thinks the manager should get the whole season. And at this point, I think that's a given, quite frankly. But he stopped short of saying that he is going to be the guy moving forward. Now, let me give you some of what Steven Gerrard had to say in his interview. Or in the podcast, I should say. So, on whether Arne Slot still has credit in the bank, Steven Gerrard had this to say. He has with me because I know more than anybody on the planet how difficult it is to win a league. And for him to come in and win a league in his first season, he's got a lot more credit with me. Jamie will tell you, Liverpool will demand they expect to win it every year. I think he needs the opportunity to play his way out of trouble and fix the issues and try to get himself back in a good place. I think he did that during the period a few months ago where they lost 9 in 12 and then went on a run that took them from 12th to 4th in the league. I think somebody who's won a league deserves at least a full season to try and get out of the problems and issues that they've got. I'm certainly one of them. But I have to understand what the fans are saying as well, because it's been dire in certain games and performance. He went on to say, as a Liverpool fan and somebody who has been an ex-player and knows a little bit on the inside than most of the normal punters would know, these Liverpool fans, once it gets to this stage, it's very difficult to get them back around. From my own personal experience and what I've seen, it's very difficult to get them back around. And again, that's to do with Arne and the fans starting to turn. And again, this is something that comes up over and over again. Arne said it, I've said it to you multiple times, former players have said it. It's very difficult to turn situations around when it gets to this point. Now, the big question that stood out to me in this interview was him being asked if he would be an assistant. Because, of course, many of us have dreamt about Steven Gerrard being Xabi Alonso's assistant and seen both of them on the sidelines at Anfield. This is what Stevie had to say on that. He said, it depends who it is, how the conversation goes, and does he need me? What does he think I can offer? You'd have to understand it before you sign up to what the role is. And it's to support the manager, it's to be that assistant. I would do it for Liverpool Football Club if I was asked and they felt I was the right man to do it. I'd be up for it, of course. So that's some of what Stevie G had to say. Now, I'm sure probably many of you guys have had a chance to watch the interview in its entirety. And again, I think he spoke very well, very statesmanlike in it. I think he was honest in his assessment of what we'd seen this season, and I was kind of surprised to see some of the flack that he was getting on social media for the interview, because I think he handled it quite well, to be honest. The guy, how are you, dude? Hope you're well. Said, feels like the club mouthpieces are working overtime for this manager. Every day, a new piece on slot staying. If he stays, we're done at the top table. So this is something that I absolutely agree with you on, mate. They're going out of their way to push this narrative, but it's a false narrative. And I keep saying this. And I've been so pleasantly surprised over the last day or two to see Liverpool fans calling this out and saying, look, you're saying one thing, but you're not really supporting him, are you? If you really were supportive of him, you put that contract down in front of him. You know, the one that you were negotiating with him last summer after we won the league. But they haven't done that. So I don't think we can really believe that they support the manager. If they did, well, you know, I can go back and show you articles saying Liverpool are full faith in Roy Hodgson, Liverpool are full faith in Brendan Rodgers. What else do we expect a football club to say? Honestly, the football club isn't going to come out and brief the journalists that, yeah, no, we can't wait to get rid of this fella. That will be self-sabotage with the remainder of the season that's still to play for. Now, I'm not saying Slot's going to turn it around, because I don't think he will. But I also wouldn't expect a football club to say anything else, or any football club to say anything else in this situation. At the end of the season, the review will be done. And I would go as far as to say this. These next 2 weeks are going to have a huge impact on Arne's future and, of course, our future. And the one saving grace that I think we have at the minute is that Chelsea are a bit of a basket case this season. They've got financial issues. They've got players who are looking to force their way out. And that could be the thing that saves us. But I've been thinking a lot about one particular aspect of this over the last day or two. What if Liverpool weren't lucky enough that the Premier League had a 5th Champions League place? Because going into the season, top 4 is Champions League places target for most clubs. But of course, because of the coefficients and how good English teams have been doing in European competitions, that 5th spot looks like it's there. I don't think that should be enough to save a manager. Because ultimately, it is outside the aims that we had for the start of the season. And we could go back and forth on this, and we will go back and forth on this over the next couple of weeks and months. But ultimately, let's see what happens in the summer. Because if the club really do believe in him, should be straightforward. They should come out and say that. But you will see a review taking place. And like I've said, I think the next couple of weeks are going to decide his fate one way or the other. If he gets through the FA Cup against Man City, gets through against Paris Saint-Germain, and we're playing good football and we look like we've turned a corner, fair enough. But if we don't and we got knocked out, then I think you're going to see people speak up even more. And again, as Steven Gerrard said, very difficult to win fans back around. As much as they want us to be supportive of them, you can't force the issue. And there's been a couple of lovely posts on social media today as well that people have sent me saying things like, stop lumping all of us that have general criticism or genuine criticisms of the manager in with people who are just being abusive. Because that always happens, right? If you're ever outspoken or you ever push back against something, they do try to pigeonhole you and throw you in with the toxic people. And that is not our community. That is not the Liverpool fans that I've seen speak about this. They have genuine belief that Arne isn't good enough. And of course, there's always going to be people that are assholes and are always going to be abusive. And they're not what we want attached to us either. But, you know, we have to have our opinions heard, and fans can't be forced into feeling something about a manager or a style of play that they don't feel. The real Alivo said, if we get knocked out of everything and no Champions League, he has to go. Well, on the Champions League thing, there was a poll on Sky Sports, and I'm sure the poll might have changed a little bit, but when I cast my vote earlier on, the question was, will Liverpool qualify for the Champions League next season? And it was hovering in and around 50-50. When I voted on it, it was 51% think Liverpool won't make it into the Champions League, 49% think they will. Now, I asked the same question in the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp, and in there, let me have a quick look. In there, it's about 66% or so. So about 2/3 of people think Liverpool will make the Champions League next season, and about 1/3 think we won't. I'm in that 2/3. I do think we'll qualify for the Champions League next season. But again, I want to underline and say, I don't think that's a good enough reason to keep them in a job. That's not even bare minimum. That's only really useful to the owners. And of course, we get to enjoy Champions League football next season. But as I keep saying, we want to win it, right? Liverpool fans want to be competing to win the Champions League, not qualifying for it. So let me know what you guys think. And maybe I'll ask this poll in a little while when we finish the first one. Do you think we'll qualify for the Champions League next season? I think the fact that Chelsea are so inconsistent and they have real problems ahead of them probably means that we will. Now, I want to just take you through a post from the ever-reliable Mo Chatra, who, of course, writes very well about football finances. He's been writing a little bit about the Chelsea situation, and this is what Mo had to say, and shout out to our friends at Anfield Index as well. He said, following Chelsea's announcement that the club incurred a Premier League record loss of £262 million, more bad news may follow in the coming weeks. They may be banned from next season's Champions League, even if they finish in the top 5 of this season's Premier League. Now, I looked to dive a little bit deeper on this one. Enzo Fernandez, he's openly now saying that he wouldn't mind going to Madrid and playing in Madrid. You've got Cole Palmer, who's looking like he has eyes to go back up to Manchester. And it seems like that Chelsea project it's in trouble. Apart from the losses that it's incurred and the fines that it's received, the project just isn't what players are buying into. And that is something that we're seeing more and more now. Initially, these flash Harrys, as I want to call them, come in, promise the sun, moon and stars, but the lived experience doesn't really match that they're being pitched. I've talked about it at Newcastle many times as well. Those players that were coming into Newcastle were promised that they were going to do X, Y, and Z. They were promised that they were going to be building a team to be competitive, and it just hasn't been the case. With Chelsea, if there's any club that's probably gotten away with being frivolous and pissing away money over the last 20 years, they have to be head of the pile. They are the most... How do I say this? They get away with a lot with regards to what they're able to spend and how much money they bring back in and some of the churn of players that they have. But everybody also warned that this 6, 7, 8, 9-year contract nonsense can't go on forever, because if you don't start getting results, if the performances aren't there, you're stuck with players who are on good contracts and may want their way out. So let's see what happens. Hey Craig, favourite personal goalkeeping moment? It's a really weird one. So when I joined a new team, I joined Bushy Park Rangers, and I was coming in as initially, I guess, the backup goalkeeper because they had a goalkeeper. And we played in a 5-a-side tournament up in Lord Celtic in Dublin. And there was Bushy Park Rangers Team 1, Bushy Park Rangers Team 2. And we played off against each other in the final of the tournament, and we won on penalties, and I saved 3 penalties. Weirdly, that's one of my favourite moments because it made sure that I was then the first choice keeper going into the next season, having just moved to that club. So that was a very satisfying moment for me. But yeah, off the top of my head, that's the first one I can think of. We set out this season to repeat and win the Champions League, not barely qualify. For me, there isn't anything he can do to make me want him to stay, said Mulder. I'm the same, but look, I'm well aware. It's tiring. It's tiring coming in here, hearing me moaning about the manager every night. People think I'm on this mad crusade to just say anything to get him out. But if you look at the content of what I'm being asked to talk about, it's not just me. You know, most of you guys coming in tonight are going to want to chat about the manager, going to want to chat about FSG, going to want to chat about the future. And I can't ignore these comments. So to anyone that thinks I'm on this mad crusade just to push my narrative, it isn't. It's just the most popular topic for Liverpool fans to discuss. Brendan, how are you, sir? Said, we realistically need a DM, a left wing, a right wing minimum. I think we also need a right back as Bradley's always injured. If Konate, Gomez and Robbo leaves, we need centre back and left back. So the Konate situation, Brendan, let's go with that one. There was a piece today that caught my eye in The Athletic, and it goes like this. Liverpool have not given up on convincing Konate to stay, but club sources insist that there's been no breakthrough in talks and an agreement does not feel imminent. Those close to Konate have echoed this feeling. Multiple sources with links to the dressing room that Konate saying that Konate staying at Anfield is currently viewed as more likely than him leaving. Now, we've talked about this over the last couple of nights, and the language that Konate's used does sort of point to the fact that it sounded more like he's going to stay than leave. But he's currently on about 150,000 quid a week. What would it take to keep him? We are getting to that point where the club are going to have to start planning, and I'm sure they already are looking at centre-back options. We'll talk about Lukeba a little bit, or Lukeba, excuse me, a little bit later on, as he's going to be available this summer as well. Josh, how are you, my man? Hey, Craig, really struggling mentally lately. Love you. I'm sorry to hear that, Josh. I can promise you one thing, though, mate. It will get better. I know that's probably not really helpful to you right now, mate, but I can promise you from lived experience, just hang on in there, bro. If you need to speak to somebody, please do. But hang on in there. And if nothing else, come in here, chat with us each night, mate. We'll try and keep you occupied. We'll try and keep you in good spirits. But thank you, mate, for opening up, for reaching out. It's important, and I'm proud of you. So thank you, Josh. And thank you as well for being with us for 27 months as a member, my man. It means a lot. Dave, how are we, Dave? Dave Sharple said, Konate comments make it look like he'll stay. I would agree. Now, I'm not saying that as a fact, Dave, because I don't think anybody knows at this point, but I think in a summer where we're going to have more change, we need to limit the change that we're going to have where possible. So in our control is still the Konate situation to some extent. In our control is the Andy Robertson situation. We know what's happening with Mohamed Salah. We know we've got one more year with Virgil. So I do think we have to be careful of not getting into another situation where we're talking about too much change, and especially with regards to experience in the team. I'm all for bringing in young, hungry, attacking players, but you got to have a balance as well. And at centre-back, in a year's time, we're probably going to have to look to replace Virgil van Dijk unless there's an extension given to him, and that's no easy feat. So you don't want to do that off the back of having to replace his partner as well in Konate, and hoping that Xhaka settles in, and still trying to figure out where Giovanni Leone is going to be at. So a lot of questions left to be answered this summer. And the reason that the stream title tonight is as it is because today I spent my time interacting with people, reaching out to people, and everything I'm hearing back is that, yes, Liverpool will be active in the summer transfer market, but don't expect the type of money that you were seeing bandied around last year. And I thought about this for a couple of hours today, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it, because in one sense, if we can tick all the boxes that we need ticked with regards to positions that we want strengthened, fine. And like last summer, as Arnold loves to point out, we spent about 150 million net, maybe a little bit more. And that's okay. But we do need to make sure that we're competitive next season. And I don't expect FSG to go out there and break the British transfer record every single transfer window, but I don't want us to get back to this situation where we're spending 40, 50 million pound net and we're being outspent by our competitors. Because for as much as we had a great window, and it was, Arsenal still spent more money than us with regards to net. So with regards to what they spent minus the incomings, Arsenal still had a bigger outlay. So we can't, we want to keep pace. We got to make sure that we invest as well. Yes, you want to keep the performing players here, and we have brought in some great talent, but the likes of Alexis McAllister, there's, uncertainty over his future to some extent. Joe Gomez, Ibrahima Konate, Andy Robertson, Mohamed Salah's heading off. And this is before we get into the conversation about the manager, about the sporting director, about FSG's chief football officer in Michael Edwards. There's so much uncertainty that I'm a bit nervous about what's coming down the line. I'm asking myself and other people, are FSG losing interest? Are FSG maybe, considering selling up? And again, I still don't know the answer to that, but something just doesn't feel healthy at the minute around Liverpool Football Club. There was a really good post that I'd seen earlier on. I don't know if I still have it on my phone or not, but bear with me. I'll have a look, see if I have it for you. Where is it? Yeah, so a really good post from Andy the Red. And Andy writes, Gerrard on slot was basically, I hope he turns it around, but, ... I don't enjoy watching Liverpool. We've been poor for a year. We have problems all over the pitch. He'll find it difficult to turn it around. And he said Gerrard was very professional in calling him pretty much useless. So, you can't fool everyone as much as they want to. And I'm sure Aaron is a nice guy, but again, we spend a lot of money and we're trying to make ways to find excuses to justify keeping him on board. There was one more thing actually I meant to put into my notes, so bear with me while I stick this in, because I can't believe I haven't added this in. Another wonder kid for us to talk about, so give me 2 seconds. Cool. Right, so there was a piece that caught my eye today, and we do love a Brazilian wonder kid, right? We all love a Brazilian wonder kid. LFC Transfer Room posted something earlier on crediting UO Le Sport, who said Liverpool have made an inquiry for Palmeiras wonder kid Eduardo Conceição. He's 16 years of age, and the club has received 2 offers from unnamed English clubs, which they turned down so far. Palmeiras want at least 34 million for the winger. Now, 34 million for a 16-year-old, he must be fucking good at that point, because 34 million for somebody that young is a lot of money to be shelling out. So let's wait and see what happens with it. But I think we can also take Luis Enrique off the wish list, because Centre Goals put out a post crediting L'Equipe to say Paris Saint-Germain's Luis Enrique is set to become the Ligue 1's highest paid figure, with a deal worth around 20 million euro per season, surpassing Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembele, who's on about 18 million euro per season, excluding bonuses. Excuse me. So it looks like they're going to get their manager to sign on for a new deal. So that will be one name that's off the radar. Craig, don't know how true it is, but Madrid are unwilling to pay 18 million signing on fee that Konate is after. Yeah, the situation there is a weird one, because a few months ago, they reached out to Liverpool to say they'd no interest in signing Konate. We covered it here on the channel, and it was covered elsewhere as well. So I don't really know. But this piece from The Athletic said Konate currently earns around £150,000 a week and is seeking an increase that would bring him into line with some of the club's higher earners. So this is a tough balancing act. And I've tried to discuss this a few times, but in my mind, I think the sensible play is to keep Konate. And the reason I say that is, 1, continuity. 2, we don't have to then go and apply transfer fees to bring in other centre-backs. The wages are what they are. If we're looking at the money we've given Ryan Gravenberch, the money we've given Cody Gakpo, the money we're probably going to give Dominic Szoboszlai, Konate will feel like he's a senior pro and he probably deserves to be in the higher bracket. Now, how high that bracket is, I don't know yet. But for me, I hope we keep him, because I think it's more sensible than having to go out there and try to find another centre-back and then replace Virgil a year down the line. That's where my head's at with it. But, again, you don't want to see the club held over a barrel either. I think Liverpool will have a normal good summer transfer spend of 150 to 200 less outgoings. Maybe. For me, I'm thinking about this summer a little bit differently. Rather than worrying about what we're spending or what we're not spending, for me, it's going to be about box ticking. Do we finish the window thinking that the squad is built out enough? That's what I'm hoping for this summer. Whatever a player costs, whether it's high, whether it's low, whether it's bargain, whether we feel like they're overpriced a bit. I just want us to be sitting here at the end of the summer saying, you know what? we did attack the window. We did bring in the players that we needed to. And I don't want us going into next season still worrying about defensive midfielder or a wide forward coming in. As long as we address all the concerns, I think the basis of a really good squad is there. And the players that we've already brought in, of course, are going to be very good next year. And I don't mean to sound cheesy about this, but Isak will be like a new signing. Leone will be like a new signing. My problem is I don't want these players, again, being underwhelmingly coached by Arne. Grim Reaper said it also helps that Mo's 400k a week will be off the wage book. Definitely. And, maybe Andy Robertson's 160 or 180 a week could be as well. Now, again, I'd love Robbo to stay, but if you're looking at it and thinking, do the club think there's value in there? That's a difficult one, because how do you measure experience? How much financial clout are you willing to put behind that when you've got Milos Kerkez there, who's probably going to be the starting left back moving forward? Bradley, how are you, sir? Said, we still haven't replaced Diaz or Fabinho. With now Mo leaving, we need some decent signings. So I'm not trying to say that we're not going to make decent signings, Bradley. But the vibe I'm getting, and I can only report what I hear, what I see, what I read, is that yes, we will be active in the market, but don't be expecting the kind of numbers that we were seeing bandied around last year. Would you want Slot to have another season or want him sacked? Me personally want him sacked. I want him sacked. There's no getting away from that, mate. I want him sacked. Look, all I can say to you is this. I can't decide his fate. You can't decide his fate. The only people who can decide his fate are the executives of the football club and the owners. And there was another good social media post today, and I'm paraphrasing this somewhat, but the post was basically along the lines of saying, the biggest sticking point in all of this is that Hughes and Edwards don't want to admit that they were wrong and that they made a mistake. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but I'd be a liar if I said it's not something that I thought about myself, or it's not something that I'm concerned about, because a lot of the arrows, a lot of the direction of travel is towards sacking him. Because how long do you need to turn it around? And even though Steven Gerrard said he took us from the position where we were losing 9 and 12, moving from 12th up to 4th in the league table, that's true. But also look at how congested the league table is. So to make that move up from 12th to 4th didn't exactly need us to win 10 games in a row. And there hasn't been a time this season where I can think of us having 3 or 4 good games in a row. And we're not, still in the middle point of the early part of the season. We're inside the last 2 months of it now. And we're still clawing around trying to find a way to make it work. So do we want to go into next season, roll the dice with Arne? And what if it doesn't work? Well, then you know what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about another season where we're sitting here not expecting the big ones, not expecting Liverpool to be demanding and successful. Now, Steven Gerrard himself said that the pressure is to win it every year at Liverpool. Well, if that's the case, how are you justifying keeping Arne on? Because he's gone from winning it to having us currently in 5th place. And 5th place gets us into the Champions League only by the grace of the fact that the coefficient score gets it there. If it was 4th place, right now we wouldn't be going into the Champions League next year. Eddie said, I'm starting to get the feeling that unfortunately Slot will stay. So, on this, Eddie, this is where we all come into it. I get the same feeling that you get. And the reason we get that feeling, Eddie, is because that's the narrative they're pushing. They're wheeling out former players. They're wheeling out everybody they can to write things to suggest that the club are still fully behind the manager. It's up to you, me, and every Liverpool fan to have their say. And I encourage you to have your say on social media, in comments, on articles, but do it politely. There's nothing that needs to be toxic about this, but Liverpool fans need to speak up. Because ultimately, nobody wants to go into next season having that eerie vibe inside Anfield, having the unease of going a couple of goals behind or feeling like, oh, here we go again. It feels like a fresh start is needed. Now, the club may feel like that fresh start could come by getting players back who are injured, but I would argue this. The same issues are going to be there. The same underprepared team is going to be there. The lack of intensity in training is going to be the same. And he's had more than enough time to figure it out, and he hasn't figured it out. So again, Eddie, I'm going to say, we're going to have to be vocal on this, mate. If he turns it around, brilliant. I'll be the first one on here to put my hands up and say, shit, wasn't I wrong about that one? As I always do. I'm not afraid to be wrong on things. But I don't think I am wrong on this. I don't think you're wrong on this. And I don't think the majority of Liverpool fans who want Arne to be removed from his position are wrong on it. You know, we've had long enough now to look at this guy, to weigh it all up, to look at the style of football, to look at what he wants to do. And for all the briefings of the club are supportive of the manager, nobody said why, apart from they feel he's been unlucky this year. That doesn't cut it. Where's the removing emotion from the decision making? Where's the facts to back up why he's been unlucky? Because I don't think you're unlucky. I think we've just been poorly coached. I think the injuries have come because of the lack of intensity and the lack of these guys being pushed hard enough. And I think the more I think about this, last year when we won the league, the lads still had the fitness from the season before with Jurgen and all of their exercise there and all of their hard work there. And maybe that carried on into the season we won the league. And now Arne gets his first chance to put his own stamp on it. And here we are in 5th place. So the good news, by the way, is it looks like Frimpong could be available. Now, I don't have him in my preview 11 because before I've heard the news, you know, I thought Frimpong would be probably on the bench. And I still don't know if he's guaranteed to start, but he was in training today, and that's good news. So previews coming out at 10:45. He isn't in my 11 because I thought he was going to be at best on the bench, but fingers crossed. With regards to the goalkeeping situation, again, it looks like it won't be Alisson and it'll probably be Georgi Mamardashvili. So let's wait and see. Look, what I don't want to happen is for us to play Frimpong and him to be injured now the Paris Saint-Germain game. Because if you're asking me which one of them's more important, I'm saying that one. Now, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a sports scientist. If they've looked over Frimpong and there's absolutely nothing wrong with him, cool. But a bit dubious that he felt that hamstring, in my opinion. So let's wait and see what happens. I wouldn't be risking him, though, because Champions League is priority number 1 for me anyway. I want Slock on as much as the next person, but the Leone and Isak injury are probably unlucky. There's no denying that there's been some injury concerns this year, mate. None. But ask yourself this. How much do we expect Leone to play this season if he was fully fit? Because the truth is we don't know the answer, right? You know, you can only assume that maybe he'd have been treated in a similar way to Rio Ngamoa, where he would have gotten some minutes, but probably wouldn't have found his way to be a regular starter. Now, I do think he has all the tools to be a huge success going forward, and I think it's a really astute piece of business by the club to bring him in. But we got to ask ourselves realistically, how much would he expect him to play there? How much would we have expected him to play this season if he was fit and available? You know, we can only go off what we've seen in the past, and he's not exactly chomping at the bit to bring through young players and play them, is he? So, you know, again, I don't know how much we would have seen him this season. Do you reckon we beat City? No. I don't. Look, they're as inconsistent as we are. But they're at home, and I think that counts for a lot. And then if we look at the officials for the game, that really just sealed it for me. The fact that, no, I don't think we're going to beat them. And the fact that they've named the referee that they have for the game makes me fear even more. So here's the officials for the Manchester City game. Referee. If you could pick the worst referee possible to referee a game against Manchester City, who's it going to be? It's going to be Michael Oliver, the man that always seems to come down on the side of Manchester City in these big decisions. He's the referee for the game. Michael Oliver, his assistant referees, Stuart Burt and Timothy Wood, 4th official, Paul Tierney, VAR, Paul Howard, and assistant VAR, Sean Massey Ellis. So, there you go. That made my heart sink even more. Michael fucking Oliver, again. Every time we come into a big game against Man City, Michael Oliver's there. And I'm sorry, but it's bullshit. Because it's been proven time and time and time again. Why does the ref matter? The ref matters if you look at his history refereeing us. Do you remember Doku got kicked Maka in the chest? Guess who was there? The non-handball from Odegaard, I believe, was Oliver. If I'm wrong on that, apologies. But it was definitely him that was making these dodgy 50-50 decisions when we play Manchester City that never go in our favour. So that's why the referee matters. Because he bottles it every fucking time. And we had Kyle Walker coming out saying he really appreciated the tough decisions that Michael Oliver made and how strong he stood. It's not strong. He just comes down on the side of Manchester City in all of these 50-50s when we play them. So the referee absolutely does matter. And again, I don't know if you're a Liverpool fan or not, but in our recent games against Manchester City, he's been a problem. Can you speak about Diamande? Yeah, certainly. I'd love Jan Diamande. You know, I was late to the party on Diamande. I've been honest about this, but Florian Plettenberg has come out and said Leipzig are planning to reward Diamande with a new deal and performance-based pay rise without adding a release clause. They want to keep the 19-year-old for another season and will consider offers starting at €100 million. Liverpool are closely monitoring and remain in contact with his agents. It does seem like he's probably going to be the guy that Liverpool try to move for. And I'm all for it. I really, really am. The more I watch this guy, the more I think he is a superstar in the making. And I think he's probably going to want to make that next step in his career soon. But we do need to make sure if we bring him in that he's going to get enough game time. Because we're going to lose Mo. We have still Rio and Gamoa. And he's going to probably, need another season to bed his way in and start to find his feet more and more. So then you're going to ask what's going to happen with Chiesa. He's probably going to go. So yeah, I think Diamande would be a great addition. And I do think he's probably going to be our biggest outlay of the summer. That's my guess. And I feel quite confident in this one. Now, I don't have information to tell you it's done. It isn't. But he's certainly the one that I would be leaning the most towards a likely signing for us in the summer. The guy. How are you, sir, again? Thank you for your super chat, mate. Really appreciate your support. Said this summer will say a lot about FSG. If they want to win, I have my doubts with the mouthpieces are putting out there, lowering expectations. I can't help but agree with you, mate. I agree. And I've been fearing the same thing over the last day or two with what I'm seeing out there. And I've long questioned their appetite for actual success. Like, do they really want to win above all else? And I don't think the answer to that is yes. Because if the answer to that is yes, they would have made the difficult decision and removed Arne. And they would be pissed off about the outlay that they've put out there and the fact that the league title defence has been a poor one. And I'm getting a pain in my arse with these mouthpieces. I just am. Because who are they serving? They want people to pay for their subscriptions, to read their articles, to go on and read their Substacks, to, pay to read the Echo after 7 articles every week, which they brought down from 10, by the way. But they're not being fair. They're not being objective. They're just being a mouthpiece, as you've rightly said, for the club. And that's not right. Because the readership are the ones that are going to keep them in a job. All the club do is give them the access. But the opinions that they put out there are what are influencing some football fans. But I'm really proud, really, really proud of so many of the Liverpool fans now who are starting to look at this and question the narrative and just go, fuck off. Because it is horseshit. It winds me up, and it's why I pick so many fights with these journalists. Because I think they're being disingenuous. And I think they're just being snidey. Anybody who dare says anything that doesn't back up what they're saying or doesn't go along the same narrative is labelled as toxic or, and there's a lot of things I can't say because as much as I dislike some of these journalists, I'm not going to hang them out to dry with private things they've said to me off the record because it is off the record and I respect that. But I know that they don't believe everything that they write. I know it for a fact because some of them have told me. But they have to weigh up their professional opportunities versus, I guess, integrity. And that's a choice for each individual person to make. I couldn't sleep at night knowing that I was trying to make money off the back of pushing a narrative that's bullshit, that we know is bullshit. And the one that I've lost the most respect for over the past few years is without a doubt James Pearce. I went from being one of James Pearce's biggest defenders, one of his biggest fans, to just thinking he is the epitome of everything now I despise about the way our football club is covered. Very nice man. Really, really nice man. Absolutely, no argument about that. But look at what he's written over the past few years. Look at the things that he stated as a fact. Look at the tone of his coverage when Liverpool won a few games. And I keep coming back to this. Those with short memories will blah, blah, blah. It's just unnecessary. And again, you want people to pay to join the Athletic. You want people to pay to read your views. And you're not giving your actual views. You're just pushing the narrative that those people who give you these opportunities, who leak stuff to you, want pushed. That's not journalism. It just isn't. There's no objectivity to it. Somebody said I missed one of their super chats. Sorry, Robert, my man. My apologies, sir. Let me scroll back up and find that one for you, dude. My sincere apologies, Robert. I wish there was a way I could hit a refund button to refund you for that super chat you had to send to remind me, Robert. So I apologise on that, sir. All right, Craig. As you know, I'm a United fan, but given the season you're having, is a Champions League place and a possible FA Cup win, is it a successful season in your opinion? And also mind the gap. Friendly banter, big fan. No, mate, the banter is always appreciated. Look, I wouldn't respect you if you didn't give me a bit of a pushback on it. But is an FA Cup win and a Champions League qualification enough to keep him in a job? I don't think I can answer it based on that, because for me, it's about the way we play and looking like we click and looking like he's figured out the best system and looking like we're moving in the right direction. You know, yes, we go into the season, Robert, wanting to win trophies. That's the number one aim. But at this point, between now and the end of the season, let's say we got to the final of the FA Cup and lost. We got to the semi-final of the Champions League and we're beaten by a very good Real Madrid or Bayern Munich team, and we qualified for the Champions League. If we did that playing good football, you know, you'll always lose games. That happens. But it's about the way we're playing. And it looks like we're just going from one inconsistent performance to the next. And I'm not seeing the progression that would justify keeping them. And that's what it boils down to for me, mate. You know, a trophy at this point wouldn't save him for me unless there was a real definitive change of the way we play, because a lot of us are just bored watching Liverpool, which is a horrible thing to say, but it's just boring football, you know. And you know, I don't know if you watched the Galatasaray game, Robert, but one thing that every single one of us in the chat said that night was, this is now the standard. You know, this is what they have to keep meeting. We've seen what they're capable of. And yes, you have to take the opposition into account, but the attitude was better, the energy was better, the aggression was better, the movement up front was better, and everybody was like, yeah, okay, let's do this again. And then we go and lose to Brighton the very next game. And that's been the really frustrating part, Robert, this season for me. So that's why I would say, no, I wouldn't just measure it in trophies. It's got to kind of all come together for him to justify getting another season. On this one as well, thank you very much, my friend, for being with us as a member for 2 months. Appreciate you. And again, sorry, Robert, mate, that I missed that one initially. Bailey said, the most important question we can ask is, will still be doing content for us next season, Craig? Much love. Absolutely. You know, as I sit here right now, my sincere view is that my aim is to do at least 5 more seasons. This has been the hardest season for me as a content creator by a country mile, Bailey, because of and I said this last night, because of the pain we're all feeling and the frustration. So yeah, I plan to be here because look, I've got objectives that I want to achieve. I want to be the first Liverpool channel to get to 1 million subscribers. I don't know if we'll ever do it, but you know, I want to try. I want to continue to, well, I can't say one thing because I had a breakthrough yesterday. So I often think about the direction of Anfield Agenda and where I want it to go and what's next for us and how we can improve and how we can be more interactive and what we can do. And I was sitting there last night and I had a eureka moment. I know they don't happen very often, I can promise you, but I had a eureka moment and now I know definitively what I want to do. I know where I want this to go. I know what I want Anfield Agenda to become, and I know what I want our community to be a part of. I've got to pitch this to Connor. I've got to sit down and work it out, but I'm starting to now sketch out a proper 3 to 5 year plan. And after that, I'll be, 50 years of age? So who knows? You know, who knows if people still want to watch. But my intention is to try to keep building this into something that people can be proud of. Something that I want to leave a legacy. And I want that legacy to be pretty clear by the time I'm done. So, let's wait and see. You only put your best foot forward and see what happens, mate. Any update on the studio? Yeah, it's done bar a couple of things. I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. My builder has suffered a lot of setbacks with regards to injuries and people being hurt and stuff like that. So he's kind of up against it, and I'm not pushing him because he's been very good with me. He's been more than fair. He's done so much great work for me. He's worked with us on price, and I want to give him the leeway that I think he deserves for all of his good work for us. So at this moment in time, I can't bring myself to push him to say I need this done by then, because he deserves more than that from me, because he's given me more than that. So I want to be, mindful of him. So I don't know when we're going to be in there. That's the honest answer. It may be the summer. It may be before then, but we're not too far away. Carl said, you've started something here that's only going to grow. If you have to leave, you'll pass the baton on for sure. I don't think I will. I don't think I'll pass the baton on, Carl. I think the way I think about Anfield Agenda is that me and Connor came into this together, and I think we go out of it together. So if he said to me tomorrow, I'm leaving, I think I quit as well. But if I said to him, I'm leaving, I think he quits as well. Because I don't think this works without both of us involved in it. Because what I've learned over the years is it's our baby. No one's going to give a shit as much as we do. Nobody's going to have earned the right to be here like we have. And I wouldn't want to do this with anybody else, and I don't think he would. So, well, I hope he wouldn't. So, yeah, I don't know if I would ever pass the baton on. More likely, we'd just close it down, when we feel we've taken it as far as we can. Ornstein was early with Bellingham to Madrid, questioned it, and he was right and early. I don't like seeing Ornstein say Slot is not going. So, Ornstein also said the football club was up for sale, but yet it wasn't. Nobody else ran with it, and he seemed to have gotten away with that one. Look, I'm not having a dig at David Ornstein, but what I'm saying to you is nobody's perfect, and they only get the information that they get because Ornstein has a good relationship with Hughes and Edwards. And that's not me breaking ranks to tell you that. That's kind of well known. So yeah, I wouldn't take anything that people that don't like. Ask yourself this: when has David Ornstein written an article criticising Liverpool Football Club, or criticising the transfer business, or criticising the owners, or criticised the executives? I don't remember it. If he has written one, fair enough, but they're probably few and far between. So that's why I'm so aggressive towards these guys, because I don't think they're doing fans a service. I don't think they're doing us a disservice by gaslighting and manipulating us. That meme guy said, Craig, if we sign Diamande, do you honestly expect the squad to be filled out, considering the summer won't be as big as last summer? And personally, I'd take two right wingers for 50 million each rather than Diamande. So I do think he would be the outlier this summer with regards to the expenditure, the amount that it would take. Now, I don't think Liverpool pay €100 million for Jan Diamande. I think we can get him cheaper. But let's work through it, right? So what do we need? Well, we probably need a left back if Robbo's going to move on. What do I expect us to do there? Honestly, something in the 30 million quid bracket probably. Centre back, we really don't know if we need anything yet. If Konate stayed, then it'll come down to maybe what Joe Gomez wants to do. We've got Jeremy Jacquet who'll be coming in. We've got Giovanni Leone who's going to make his way through. So then it's a question of what do we need? Do we wait another season, see what Virgil wants to do? Maybe look at the situation with Nico Schlotterbeck then down the line to see if he could come in to be that replacement. So when you think about it, I think some of the exits will fund the positions we need. So just for example, I expect to see a midfielder leave, and I expect to see that midfielder fund some of, if not all of, a defensive midfielder. On top of that, I'm not really sure what to expect on the right-hand side of attack, but I do think we'll see two wide forwards brought in this summer, especially now that we know Mohamed Salah is gone, because we need to. You know, even if one of them is the starting right winger, one of them's a backup right winger, we still need to get 2 in. After that, what else do we really need this summer to build it out? I don't know. They have to make a tough call on Conor Bradley and the right back situation. It's a call that I'm not envious of. It's a difficult one to make. You know, if you're ruling it with no emotion involved, you probably do have to look at the injuries that are totting up from in a very short period of his career and ask, is this going to be the case going forward? And then after that, I guess, you know, I just don't expect us to be spending, to have many 60, 70 million euro players brought in. And I'm okay with that because a lot of the heavy lifting was done last summer. And, you know, we're going into next season and we'll have Isak back. We'll have Ekitike and Vert settled in. We've got Frimpong there. We've got Kirkes there. Still on the fence about Georgie and whether he's going to be good enough or not, but I'm open to seeing more. So we're not a million miles away, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be a blockbuster summer to get us where we need to. I think we can do it with some clever acquisitions as well. If Robertson leaves, we'll probably use Chimicus as backup. So here's why I don't think that'll happen. Then we'll be letting him go on a free at the end of that year. Whereas this summer, Costas has 1 year to go on his deal, and Liverpool could still get a fee. Now, we'll all admit that Costas isn't going to be good enough going forward. If he was, he wouldn't have left the club. So I think we'll probably see him sold this summer. But what happens with Andy Robertson, I truly don't know. My vibe that I'm feeling is, and again, not based off anything, I'm probably more likely that he's going to leave than stay. Because I think, you know, we'll go to the World Cup at Scotland and he's going to want to play. As you get older in your career, you're going to want to continue to play because you know your days are numbered. And he will still get a lot of games at Liverpool, but he's not going to be the starting left back the majority of the time. That's why Kirkes was brought in. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that one. Right, let's have a look at our poll. So we're heading towards 1,500 votes. We're nearly at 1,200. We're asking, do you believe we need another big spending summer to be competitive again next season? I guess it depends on what you think is a big spending summer. Because I want to remind you, even in our biggest spending summer, we still were outspent by Arsenal net spend-wise. Remember that when these mouthpieces tried to tell you that we spend huge. We did, but the outlay net was nowhere near some of our competitors and what they've spent in recent seasons as well. Sonder said, Arne to stay, but no new contract. Weird to me. So let me ask you this, Arne. Let me ask you this, Arne. Sonder, let me ask you this, and I guess it's a bit of a... I'm trying to answer my own question. If you believe so much in a coach, and you think that that title-winning coach has been dealt a bad hand this year, you're of course going to tie him down. Because if you're telling him, we believe in you, you're the guy, we understand this season was tough for you, you know, factors worked against you, but we still have every faith in you. If I'm his agent, the first thing I'm going to say is, then where's the contract? Where's my man's deal? Do you believe in him? If you believe in him, put your money where your mouth is. Because you're doing it with players who've had an inconsistent season. You know, they're still trying to find a deal there to keep Konate. So I'm with you, mate. I've never bought this narrative because if they believed in him, the contract would be on the table and he'd be signing it. What the best that you're going to get now is these lads to say that there will be a review at the end of the season. They're all going to cover their arse by giving themselves a little out to say that, well, we did say this, even though we spent 5 months telling you who's staying, but we did say this. We did say, but there will be a review. You know, I've seen this season after season. Right, let's get to more of your comments. Do you think FSG's focus will be on improving our squad depth this summer? God, this is tough because I just don't think FSG give a fuck about Liverpool, and I just don't. And again, I don't know whether they should or shouldn't either. Like, is it wrong of me to be upset that they don't live and breathe Liverpool like we do? Because what owners do with their clubs, you know, they're few and far between. But it feels like they've wandered a little bit this season. You know, it is fair to ask what's going on with Michael Edwards. Because I'm sure Michael Edwards is wondering what's going on. Because there's, you know, we was brought in with one clear objective. And He's done the groundwork on it, but FSG haven't wanted to go down that multi-club model. So in one way, I'm almost wondering, did they not want him being elsewhere? You know, because they've clearly changed tact here and they're not looking to buy another club. So if that's not the plan anymore, what is the plan? What is Liverpool's model moving forward? What are we going to see in the future? There's a lot of uncertainty right now with Edwards, with Hughes, with Slot, with some of the players. And I think, once again, we're wandering into a situation where we've taken our eye off the ball. Like we did when Schmatke and Klopp were here. And yes, we were bringing in players, but nobody was looking after the contract renewals. Nobody was really strategically planning for the future. And that ended up with the situation where Salah, Trent and Virgil were all at the end of their deals and the club were scrambling around trying to sort it. And I still feel we're playing catch up from that now. So I'm concerned not just about the manager. I'm concerned about the dedication of the owners to the club, because there's too much uncertainty around now, and uncertainty ain't your friend in football. It just isn't. You need continuity. Players that are coming in are going to need to know who the coach is going to be, who the sporting director is going to be, what the direction of the club is, what the ambition of the club is. Will that ambition match theirs? I don't know, but I'm worried about it, and we shouldn't be. It feels like I just don't know how we got here, quite frankly. And that's the thing that's the most difficult to figure out this season, is how we've gone from the joy of the summer outside of the passing of Diogo, obviously, and I want to always caveat that because that was, of course, something that will live with us all forever. But outside of that, the optimism we all felt, it takes a special kind of fuck up to go from that to this, right? And you can't ignore that. Because this is natural. This is how we genuinely feel. This isn't the we're spoiled brats, we want to win everything. We know we're better than we've seen this year. We know it. People who are far more qualified than me have talked about the training methods, talked about how poor we look out there, how inconsistent we've been. So for a club that keeps bleating on and banging on about standards, it's just buzzwords. Unless you do it, unless you actually act ruthlessly to be successful, where are we? And I don't like it when you say, well, we need to sack Arne, and people go, so you want to be Man United? You want to be Chelsea? You want to be going down that road all the time? No. I just want to admit when things aren't working. Nobody said anything when Arne came in. Everybody was behind him. Everybody wanted success. He brought success, and now he's gone backwards. You can't just forgive that, especially with some of the shit he's come out with. And he's been his own worst enemy. He's not ingratiated himself to fans at all. In fact, he's done the opposite. Every time he talks, it's deflection. It's self-sustaining bullshit. FSG kept Rodgers, sacked him early in the season after. Yep. And they should learn their lesson from that. Right? So FSG aren't football people. That's why they hire people that are far better versed in football to run football clubs and to make these day-to-day decisions. But there are no idiots, and they must see what we see. But the question is, if the Champions League money keeps rolling in, will they really care enough, or will they just believe what Hughes and Edwards are saying, which is we think he's been unlucky? Because that's all it comes down to me. I'm definitely of the mindset that they just don't want to admit they were wrong. Dingsbro, how are you, sir? And thank you for your super chat, my friend. Said, evening, sorry if it's already been covered. What's the stance on the manager? Surely he won't be here next season. He can't be here next season. Every fibre of me believes he won't be here next season, but they're trying their best to make an argument to keep him. I do think that ultimately fan sentiment, the feeling inside Anfield, will make itself clear over the next few weeks, because this is a win-win for us right now as Liverpool fans, in my opinion. We either are surprised and progress further in the FA Cup and the Champions League than we're expecting, in which case, cool, things are going in the right direction, or we suffer the pain of going out with these competitions, and then his future becomes pretty clear because the failure is out there for all to see. So, you know, I feel like in 2 weeks we'll all have a better understanding of where the future is going to be for Arne, because you won't be able to hide away from it. Fans are right on the edge now, and there are always going to be fans that want to give the Liverpool manager a chance and want to give him the whole season. I respect it as much as I disagree with it. But in the summer, that sentiment is going to be pretty clear. And like I keep saying, for Liverpool fans to get to the point where they're speaking out as much as they are, that shows you how bad things have gotten. So we talk about negativity and toxicity. Can we talk about the other side of this toxicity, which is positive toxicity? The happy clappers, the top reds, the people that just refuse to acknowledge it because they want to be a super fan. They're equally as damaging and as toxic to our fan base as people who are outspoken like me. And I'll never, ever admit I'm wrong on that. Because if you're just sticking your fingers in your ears, despite all the evidence in front of you, and saying, la, 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 this is the Liverpool way, I'm a super fan, we don't ask for the manager's head, then you've never won fucking anything in your life, ever. And you have no competitive drive. Because if you want to be the best, you've got to act like the best. You've got to actually maintain standards. You've got to go through and do the right things in the right moments. I talked at the end of last season about taking our foot off the gas and it being a problem. And people were just so distracted by winning the league that they were willing to accept the mediocrity that we've seen for the end of last season. The League Cup final defeat. The really poor way we finished it. The tin pot partying before the season was even over. Absolute horseshit. Belittling. Demeaning of the football club. Acting like winning a league title is something that we never expect. That is completely at odds with what Steven Gerrard said earlier on today, which is that Liverpool expect to win it every year. So please stop talking about standards as if they're actually being maintained when they're not. Stop telling people about the Liverpool way when the Liverpool way is to win. We didn't become the most successful team in English football history by being a soft touch. You know, winning breeds winning. And we have took our foot off the gas, and we've seen all season that they've not been able to rediscover that competitive edge, that fight, that intensity. It's just not been there. And again, I come back to saying it's got to be done week in, week out. You know, just to give you a simple way of trying to put this across. When we go 3-0 up in a game, what happens? We make changes, we take our foot off the gas, and we try to find our way through it. What happens when Manchester City go 3-0 up in a game? They won 4, they won 5, they won 6. They're fucking ruthless. We've never had that in modern times with Arna. We just haven't. And that is it. I don't think he's cut out for it, because I think the methods that he's trying to implement that worked in the Eredivisie are being found out now. And the league is just becoming too competitive, too physical for his methods. Irish boy, thank you, mate. Appreciate you. They will not sack Slot. They're cowards, said Stevie Boy. So, let me put it to you this way, Stevie Boy, right? If they don't sack him and we fail miserably this season, how do you think the summer's going to go? How do you think the hospitality tickets for next season are going to go? How do you think the new jersey sales are going to go? How do you think the PR backlash is going to be from fans? Because we've moved into a new era now where they're openly talking about the fact that the match-going fans and the online fans, as they like to call everybody, are two very different things. And this pisses me off hugely because it's so undermining of the love, admiration and support that all people from all around the world that support this club feel. It's like, fuck you, you don't matter. Match-going fans are the be-all and end-all. But also, gives your money. Buy the new shirts. Buy the 3rd, 4th merch drops of the season. Buy your international memberships. I'm fed up of it. And I'm fed up of seeing Liverpool fans belittled by these fucking cowards that won't say what they feel. Just come out and say it. You feel you have a birthright to go to Liverpool Football Club games. And the prices shouldn't go up. And that you and your mates should all be able to go. And you grew up in the city, that's it. Fuck everybody else. But also, like I said last night, I don't see any of them going to bat to talk about the exorbitant fees for hospitality tickets or anything like that. Nobody ever seems to give a shit until the season ticket prices come into focus. Then all of a sudden it's protest, it's unions, it's Spirit of Shankly, it's Spy and Cop. But where are they for the rest of the Liverpool fan base? You know, the ones that are always blamed. Poor atmosphere, travelling fans, day trippers, don't know the songs. How about giving out the songs, being proactive, educating? No, far easier to belittle. Far easier to just acknowledge that, well, we're the important ones here. And I'm going to keep saying it because it needs to be said. There cannot be a two-level, two-tiered fandom in football club. Those days are gone. Sorry. You want to be competitive? You want to compete at the top? Well, you need international fans. You need that support. You need that money. Other words, you're going to be in League One or League Two. That's the fact. And I'm going to continue to fight for our rights. I'm going to continue to fight for respect for fans that aren't lucky enough to have season tickets or aren't lucky enough to have grown up within 2 miles of Anfield. We matter. We have a voice. Don't forget that. I don't want this to be an us and them thing, but they keep reminding us that it is an us and them thing. And that's down to them. Because I call for unity so many times. I'm fed up of it. I'm fed up of the sniggering. I'm fed up of looking down their fucking nose at us. I'm fed up of not giving a shit about our rights or our values. As long as them and their mates are all right, that's all that matters. It's tiring and it needs to stop. Because if we're all fighting against each other, what's happening then? The club are able to manipulate and do what they want. The club are able to turn us against each other. The club are able to diminish our power as fans. We need to come together. We need to speak as a unified voice. And we need to be accepting that football has moved on. I love the city. I love Scousers. But we can't ignore this reality. That there are certain people that feel like they are above the rest of us. That feel like they're entitled to something that everybody else has to fight and scrape for. To go to Anfield for many of us is a privilege. It's something that you save up and you're lucky to go maybe once, twice a season, if that. And then you're constantly belittled. You're called an armchair fan. Don't go to the game, mate. Well, we can't go to the fucking game, can we? Do you want to give me your season ticket? I promise you, I won't complain about the price of it. It's, I'm sick of it. And I'm going to keep pushing and keep fighting our side of it. Because they will find out there is more of us than there is of them. And there just is. So speak up. Defend yourself. Have your fucking say. You deserve it. Your sacrifices, whether they financial or with your time, they count. They matter. Your social media follows. The jerseys you buy. The TV subscriptions you pay for. You're invested in this as much as anybody else. So don't let anybody talk down to you. Don't let anybody belittle your support. Because you're needed. Dave, how are you, mate? Said Craig was in the Arkles pub next to the ground on Saturday. Everybody saying the same. Match day tickets were like rocking horse shit. There'll always be fans wanting to buy tickets. Exactly. And I kind of woke up to this. If I don't know how many years ago it was now, Dave, but it was something that what's his face? Ian fucking Harley driver fucker. Sorry, his name's escaped me this moment in time. He said something like they want that sweet spot where supply outstrips demand. And that stuck in my mind. And I just thought, so they're intentionally pitting fans against each other. They intentionally want to drive the price of tickets up for fans going against each other. Because that's all that happens here. Divide and conquer. When there's not enough tickets for fans, what happens? They argue with each other. They turn on each other. But like I've always said, who's the one selling all these tickets? Who's the ones giving up and selling their season tickets for exorbitant prices on all these websites? You know the answer, but they don't want to acknowledge it. Ian Eyre, that's the one I was trying to think of. Excuse me. Ian Eyre was the one who was saying, like, you know, Liverpool always wanted the supply to, you know, be outdone by demand. The sweet spot, he described it as, I believe, at the time, if my memory's right. Wish we were more like Madrid. Need some standards. Honestly, I don't. Because I think they're too far in the other extreme, mate. I think Madrid are soulless. Yeah. You know, there doesn't need to be this belligerent attitude towards fans. Yeah. Anyway, look, let's move on a bit. Lots more to go through. So, we asked you, do you believe there'll be another big spending summer to be competitive again next season? 69% of you said yes, you do think that we need another big spending summer to be competitive again next season, and 31% said that you didn't. Now, I did say I'd do another poll earlier on. Forgive me, I've already forgotten what it was. So if anybody can be kind enough to remind me, please do let me know. I did read the Wakefield comment, yes. I don't know what you want me to say to that. Let me worry about me, is all I'll say. Let me worry about my weight loss journey. Yeah, look, I'm not going to bite on any of this shit. There's no need for it, so, fuck them, quite simply. Jacobs said, my question is, why must ticket prices and share prices increase? Liverpool make enough money in the Champions League and the domestic league, so it's not like Liverpool go poor if they don't increase prices. So this is the crux of it, right? I have every sympathy with season ticket holders over the increases and the cost of living crisis. Of course I do. Absolutely, I want football to be affordable to as many people as possible. 100%. But, like I said, you have to look out for everybody and not just a chosen few. So, Bayern Munich, I believe, said a few seasons ago, one of their executives, that yeah, they could charge more for season tickets, but is an extra few million quid a year really going to be a definitive change for Bayern Munich, for their finances? No. And all football clubs could charge all of their supporters a lot less and still get by very well. Match day revenue, look, it's nowhere near the television revenue or the Premier League revenue from TV money or prize money. But we're seeing... Look, I'm going to have to use a word here that I apologise in advance for using, but we're seeing the Americanization of football. And we're seeing some of the outlandish pricing, structures, type of ticketing, creep more and more into football. And the argument is, how do you strike the balance between corporate and match day revenue? How do you strike the balance between making football accessible to people and being able to afford to expand Anfield, to bring in superstar signings? But let me tie that into something. Let me tie it into something that I had in my notes here. Resale tickets for Canada versus Bosnia FIFA World Cup opener in Toronto are going for up to $130,000 for the opening game. Now, The Athletic done a piece, and The Athletic reported tickets for roughly 40 of the 104 matches were more expensive than they had been in previous sale windows, and found a Category 1 ticket for the final was now costing almost $11,000 for the World Cup final, from FIFA face value, up from less than $7,000 in the first window. Even that initial price was way above the figure quoted in the co-host bid to be submitted to FIFA, which pledged that a Category 1 ticket for the final would cost $1,550. A spokesperson for the Football Supporters Association told the Press Association on Thursday this is the most expensive World Cup in history for travelling supporters, from match tickets to travel and accommodation. It isn't just an issue for English fans, but for those across the planet. FIFA's ridiculous ticket pricing and opaque policies have led many fans to conclude they simply can't afford to attend football's greatest global event. Now, if FIFA, the people that are supposed to be safeguarding football, are setting that example, what hope have we got? Let's be honest about this. These dirty, greasy, robbing bastards are taking the game away from people. There is absolutely no need for tickets to be $11,000 at face value for a World Cup final. That is quite simply fucking pathetic. There is no need to quadruple rail fares for people going over there to go to games. There is no need to be charging 200 and 300 quid for car parking. This is unsustainable. And I want to remind you, FIFA's a non-profit or a not-for-profit. So their argument will be that they reinvest all the money back into the game. Do they fuck? Look at all the corporate hotels. Look at all the freebies. Look at all the bullshit. Our game is being absolutely destroyed from within, and it cannot go on. Or none of us in a few years' time will be able to go to football games. None of us. So rather than having us pitted against each other, we need to come together. The game is being destroyed. The soul's being taken out of it. The World Cup should be a celebration of the game. And we live in a country, or in countries, where the cost of living is high, but our wages are so much higher than some of the countries that are scrambling around trying to go to the World Cup. Some countries that have qualified for the first time, and they're pricing people out of it. And they're also taken away from the next generation. The World Cup right now is a fucking disgrace. And promises have been broken, lies have been told, and nobody's been held to account for it. How do you promise that a ticket to the World Cup final in your bidding process will be no more than $1,150, and then with a straight face charge people 11 grand? 8 times the price. That's ridiculous. Paul, how are you, dude? Thank you for your support, mate. Said, evening, everyone. Hi, Craig. Remember, mate, FIFA are corrupt. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting, mate. And do you know what else is bugging me about the world lately? It's that apparently we don't want to reward honesty anymore. We want to belittle honesty. You know? We were all raised to do the right thing, but these days it feels like you're punished if you try to be honest, stand up, and speak back against some of the crap that we've seen. It's tough, but we got to keep fighting. We got to keep speaking up. We got to keep pushing back. They can't take football away from everyone. It's our sport. Anyway, I have a lot more to get through. Let's talk Ederson for a minute. So this piece here from Fabrizio Romano said, Atletico Madrid have verbally agreed on personal terms with Ederson as Atlanta want the midfielder. They want the midfielder as a top target. No agreement yet between clubs as talks continue around a 35 to 40 million euro fee, but they're still in negotiations. They go on to say that Ederson is out of contract in June 27. So I've always said to you guys, I'm a big fan of Ederson, and I think he'd be an incredible signing. And at about, what did they say, 35 to 40 million euro, so about 30 million pound, I think he'd be a great acquisition. And a realistic one as well. So let's see what happens there. But I feel like he won't be coming near Liverpool, unfortunately. And yeah, look, he's a player I really like and have liked for a few years. So I wouldn't have minded to see us sniffing around there. A report coming out of Gazzetta Italia has said that Marco Palestra, 21 years of age, is attracting the interest of clubs from around Europe. Atalanta don't want to sell him for a fee below £39 million, with Liverpool very interested. The young fullback can play both flanks and is comfortably ambidextrous. Now, excuse my stupidity here. Is the word not different if you're two-footed? Ambidextrous, I don't think that's the right phrase. But look, that's me being pedantic. Anybody know anything about this guy? Is he worth us having a look at? I don't know anything. I don't watch much Italian football. So Marco Palestra, yeah, give us your thoughts on him as another player Liverpool have been linked with. So can I ask a question? Obviously, I'm not on social media, so I don't see a lot of stuff. But I've seen a couple of people mentioning Bastoni's coming in for a lot of abuse. Is that right? Because he was sent off for Italy in the World Cup qualifier. And there was one thing I'd seen that said that he may even have to leave Italy because of the grief he's getting. So he may have to move somewhere else. That's nuts. Like, yeah, it's crazy. K_2112_L. Thank you, my friend, for renewing your membership or becoming a member. Appreciate you. Craig, both FIFA and UEFA should have been kicked into touch long ago, with a new World Football Federation starting to take over far more scrutiny and oversight governments. Yeah, football's it's becoming greasy now, and it's becoming too wrapped up in politics for my liking. I'm fully expecting Tiger Woods to win the inaugural FIFA Best Driver Award next season as well. Right, let's talk about Maka for a minute. Madrid Zone have said that Justin, Alexis McAllister's dream is to play for Real Madrid, but a move for him seems distant as he has a contract with Liverpool till 2028 and Real Madrid has a market limit on what they can spend. So my prediction here is that Real Madrid will end up moving for Enzo Fernandez because he's wanting out Chelsea. And he's making it pretty clear he wants out with Chelsea, talking about dreaming about going to Madrid and stuff like that. So I don't know what happens with Maka this summer. He's long been the one that I thought we were vulnerable to losing this summer, but with Curtis Jones' situation as well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to expect there. World of Naturalists said, I thought football was supposed to be for the masses, the man on the street. These days, with ticket prices, it seems to be more for the rich. Surely that's not right. The World Cup is a disgrace. It is. The good thing, though, and fair play on this to UEFA, there's been something that said that a lot of the tickets for the Euros are going to be just 30 quid coming up, or at least the entry-level price is going to be 30 quid. And if they follow through with that, that's brilliant. The Euros is going to be in England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, not Northern Ireland actually. So 30 quid tickets are available. That's brilliant, and that's certainly something that we should applaud. But what's going on with the World Cup, I don't know what to say. It isn't even a disgrace. It's beyond a disgrace. It's a farce at this point. I've never had less interest in a World Cup than I do with this summer because the greed has taken over. I wonder how much Chelsea would sell Enzo for. Yeah, I was wondering that last night myself, Billy, when I was watching this piece on Sky about Enzo Fernandez. I don't know is the honest answer. Like, they paid over 100 million quid for him, so I'd imagine it'd be quite expensive. But yeah, I don't know. Look, I'd love us to be able to get Moise Caicedo, but I don't think they're going to want to sell him. And I've not seen anything of him really looking to get a move out of there. But Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, even Mark Cucurella have all kind of put it out there into the world that they're open to the idea of leaving. Craig, it happened to the Club World Cup. Ticket prices was so high and the stadiums were empty. FIFA aren't learning. Yep. Just because you can charge something doesn't mean you should charge something. Like, a ticket to a World Cup final, I would argue that even the $1,150 they were talking about is too much. Why do records always have to be smashed? Why does profits always have to increase? It's just, as Lynn said a while ago, this is supposed to be the working man and women's game. This is supposed to be for the common people. It's the people's sport, and they're turning it into an entertainment industry and asking people to pay through the nose for it. Anthony said none of the stadiums will be full due to the pricing. Will you actually watch the World Cup in detail? Look, it's the World Cup, so you're going to pay some attention to it. But in detail, no, probably not. I don't even know what we're going to do on the channel, if we're going to do anything around the World Cup yet. Haven't fully decided, but I've read reports that FIFA are already instructing broadcasters to keep the cameras to the lower point of the stadiums to make them look like they're more full than they are. At least that's what I've read in a few pieces over the last few months anyway. Owen said, I don't know about you, Craig, but I believe Enzo could be a good asset to our midfield. So I would have said yes, Owen, but on that same piece that they were speaking about on Sky, they talked about the Chelsea dressing room being really unhappy with Enzo Fernandez's attitude out there on the pitch, particularly in the games against Paris Saint-Germain, where he was berating players and not really pulling his weight, not working hard enough to get back, and not showing real leadership. So, you would have to question that. But like I said, I don't know the goings on at Chelsea well enough. It looks like a very scattergun approach for them, the way they've gone about things. And there's been a few times lately where we've seen clubs sell visions to players of the way the clubs are going to go and not really lived up to that. Gonna take a break from Liverpool if Slot is in charge, to be honest, said Sonder. Mate, if I had a fiver for every time someone has said that to me over the past 3 months, I'd be a very wealthy dude. And I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, I'm with you. But unfortunately, mate, and I don't mean, I don't know what else to say to this, but I can't not watch Liverpool. I can't do it. I can't bring myself to get to that point. And that's not a good thing because they have me for life. You know, once you get that bug, once you find your club, your loyalty's there for life. And, you know, the way I always try to think about these things are FSG and Arne Slot and some others, they're custodians. They're here in the here and now. But we'll all be here long after they're all gone. And the next owners are in, the next managers are in, the next players are in. We're the one consistent the football clubs have is their fans. And yet we're the one thing that so many of them think of last. Craig, glad to hear you had a great holiday. Thank you, Chris. Hope you're well, mate. Sad to say I haven't watched a single game since Galatasaray first leg, so I can't stand to even listen or watch the games under Slot. Also, just heard that Webb's wet dream is Oliver ref tomorrow. Oh, mate, I couldn't believe when I seen that Michael Oliver was picked for the game. I actually thought somebody was winding me up at first until I checked it out. I don't know what to say, Chris. It feels like sometimes the PGMOL are baiting us into a reaction because literally any other fucking ref, any of them, except Oliver. But no, you know, there you have it. Michael Oliver in charge for the game on Saturday. Bradley said watching with friends on a big screen is more fun. Look, it's great. But I guess the point is, you know, you should have a realistic option either way. You know, if you want to go to a World Cup and follow your country, and look, there are lots of countries who have qualified for the first time and their fans are setting out on a journey they've never done before. And, you know, they're being met with these absorbent prices that are just going to put them into, a lot of them into debt for years to come out of their loyalty for their own countries. And it's just not right. Like, what message is this sending? Again, that profit and money drives everything. It's above all else. So, let's talk about some positives though, right? Because there's still some positives. Isak back training. That's a positive. Will he be on the bench at the weekend? There's a chance of it. What impact he'll have, I don't know. But it's certainly a boost to see him back out there training and potentially available. Jeremy Frimpong was out training today as well. Brilliant news there. So hopefully Jeremy's going to be all right for the weekend. And then, of course, we still don't know exactly what's going on with Mohamed Salah, but, you know, Mo wants to play the game and believes he's going to be fit, so fingers crossed that he is. Yeah, so there are some positives, you know. We're starting to get players back as well. But after 2 weeks of no Liverpool football, this next week in particular, you know, Saturday, Tuesday, or Saturday, Wednesday, and then the following Tuesday is going to make or break our season. It really, really is. And I have a knot in my stomach with worry about these next couple of weeks because I want to believe we're going to stand up and be counted. I want to believe they're going to really fight to give Mo something to send off with a memorable finale to his Liverpool career. But I just don't know. I just don't know what to expect anymore. It's so inconsistent. It's hard to get excited, nervous. I just don't know. I really don't know what mindset we're in at the minute. And it makes it very difficult to get a read on the next 4 games. Right, so give me another poll that you guys would like to see in the chat. Yeah, give me another poll idea. We'll throw it in for the last half hour or so of the stream tonight. Mike said, I'm so sad to say this, but I want us to lose the FA Cup tie and the 2 Champions League ties. Hope we get top 5 in the Prem and everything to get Slot sacked. I have no hope. I completely understand where you're coming from, Mike. And isn't it a really difficult mental place to be in, right? Because in one sense, you're thinking, I want Liverpool to be successful. In another sense, you're thinking, this could be the best way to get rid of him and actually maybe even push Liverpool on again down the line. It's a tough one, dude. It really is. Personally, I can never bring myself to want Liverpool to lose, but I understand where you're coming from. And I'm not certainly going to run you down for it, because it speaks to how sad it all is for us that we're even contemplating that people are even thinking, is it worth us losing these just to get rid of somebody? And the most tone deaf part of it all is that the club seem to be just sticking their fingers in their ears about this and going, la la la, we know, we have it sorted out, trust us, carry on, trust the process. Do you think Liverpool will make a comeback next season, Paul? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. But I guess how do we quantify a comeback? Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to think about how I can word a poll around that. All right, you know what? I'm gonna go different. Right. Do you believe the sources that say the club still back Arna? So I'm not asking you whether you want him sacked. I'm not asking you whether you think he should be sacked. Do you believe these people who are saying that club sources tell them that Slot has their backing? Do you believe that that's the case? So again, this isn't about what you and I want. I'm just asking, do you believe what you're hearing, what you're reading, what you're seeing? Sometimes I think no, sometimes I think yes. Sometimes I think no, because my rational brain goes, well, how could they be backing him? How could they truly believe that he's the guy? And then another part of me thinks, well, these guys could be so cocky and arrogant that maybe they do think they know best. Maybe they do believe that they'll eventually be proved right. It's a tough one because, like I said the other night, this summer feels like one where there will be some managerial talent available. Maresca's probably going to end up at Manchester City. Alonso, well, he's still there. And again, I understand if the club would look at Alonso and think, yeah, very good person, very good coach, but maybe stylistically doesn't play the type of football that they think would gel to the way Liverpool are. I argue that we're probably better placed for that now than we were originally when we brought Slot in. But yeah, I don't know which way to go on this, because I know what I think is right. I know what I think they should do, but I'm very dubious about whether they actually care what we think as fans. Motorhome Dreamer. So the 10 league losses so far would be enough for them to look at it, surely. I mean, you're not wrong, dude. This hasn't been a season where we've run out of steam or, the spine of our team has been rinsed with injuries. There's been some injuries, but there's always going to be some injuries. But more often than not, the complaints that we talk about as Liverpool fans are the style of football, the lack of intensity, the fact that we don't look fit, and all of those things come to the manager and are from the manager. Recruitment isn't his job. There's no problem. We'll admit that. We'll talk about that. Hughes and Edwards have still work to do there. But, like I keep saying, simplistically, what's our brand of football? What's our identity under Arna? I keep coming back to these very simple questions. And as Stargirl and Nessie and others have said, what happened to the coach who was supposed to be similar to Jurgen in his philosophy? That there wouldn't be much upheaval. Because the reason they're talking about not bringing in Alonso is because of the back three, the style of the way he changes, and the upheaval that it would be for the playing squad. Well, we're not really seeing Arna sticking to the plan, playing the philosophy and the style of football that we thought he was coming in to play. So how is it okay for that to go sideways, but yet we're supposed to believe that Alonso or somebody else with a back three maybe couldn't come in and tweak it, even though Wirtz is there who played in it, Frimpong's there who played in it, and you would argue that with the fullbacks that we have, they could absolutely play in a wing back role. Couple of additions at centre back, you could go to a back three. We've got 2 centre forwards, a 10. I don't get why there's all the leeway in the world for Arne fucking up and not playing the style of football that he's supposed to, but heaven forbid Alonso came in and there had to be upheaval and a tweak to the way we play. Scott said Alonso played a back four at Madrid. I agree. He's flexible. His preferred system certainly is with a back three. But you're right, mate. He has shown an adaptability. Martin said, Craig, the reason I want Slot gone is I dread the thought of spending next season battling the inner conflict of wanting Liverpool to win, but knowing random victories are keeping him at the club. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, mate. That's why I keep saying this has been the most difficult season for me as a Red. Because at least when we were poor, we knew why we were poor. We were poor because financially we weren't there. The playing staff wasn't as good as it should be. And we were, building, trying to get back to the top. Jurgen and FSG and the club did the heavy lifting, got us back to the top. And now all of a sudden show no appetite to want to stay there. I'm going to go to bed now. Hopefully dreaming of Arna. Handed a P45. Good night to you, Craig. Enjoy your evening. Good night to you, my friend. And thank you for dropping in. Appreciate you. Gordon Davis. How are you, Gordon? Said, being a Liverpool fan almost all my life. Seen 14 managers. And Slot is the only manager I want out. Look, I'm not going to say he's the only manager I wanted out because I wanted Hodgson out. But like I said, at least I understood why we were crap under Roy Hodgson. We didn't have the squad anywhere near our rivals that you could argue that we should have been challenging. But right now, it feels very strange to think we won the league, we invested in loads of players, and every excuse under the sun has been made to justify the failures. Gaming Dog said, Craig, it's beyond me how he survived 9 losses in 12. Champions or not, it's embarrassing. Only beating West Ham and Newcastle twice. Slot out. You're not wrong, dude. It is embarrassing. It's embarrassing, and it's not the only one. Like, there's been many records that he's broken this year for the wrong reasons. Like, remember, we lost 3 games in a row by 3 goals or more. That in itself is a sackable offence. 9 in 12, like you've said, is a sackable offence. The way that he's managed this squad is a sackable offence. The lack of intensity in our play is a sackable offence. The poor title defence is a sackable offence. So, like you, mate, I find it very hard to stomach this and think, how on earth is he getting away with it? And yet we're still hearing that we have standards, we want success. Yeah, sorry. I know we keep going back over the same things, which is why I'm looking forward to us actually having the game on Saturday and real football to talk about. Right, let's talk about Castello Luqueba for a minute. Florian Plettenberg posted to say, Castello Luqueba could leave RB Leipzig this summer after 3 years, with both sides open to a move. The club would accept around 65 to 70 million euro, which is below his 80 million euro release clause. 23-year-old Luqueba is keen on the new challenge, and his future now depends on incoming offers. So we'll keep an eye on that one for you. If we see anything linking Liverpool or anything like that, we'll certainly let you know about it. So the reason for the title of tonight's stream and my warning for us not to expect a summer like last summer comes from Paul Joyce. And Paul Joyce writes that while there will not be as big of an outlay as last summer, it'll be another important transfer window for Liverpool. So I guess what's important mean? And I agree with Paul, by the way. I don't expect us to have another £450 million summer. But for me, like I said at the start of the stream, it'll come down to, have we ticked all the boxes? Have we gone out there and made sure we have 2 quality players in every position? If we can do that, I don't care if we break transfer records or not, because we've got great players at the club. We need to supplement those players now, bring in some pace, because we're lacking in that, and finally sort out the defensive midfielder that we haven't really sorted out since Fabinho. Gaming Dog said, I can't lie, this morning with Ibu in the thumbnail, I thought he had a City kit on at first. My heart skipped a beat. Yeah, so this is really hard. So when Connor's away, I can't design thumbnails. Like, it's not on my skill set. So when Connor's away, what we have to do is I have to ask him to do up 20 or so thumbnails with various degrees of topics that I think might come up and shows that I think I'd like to do. So sometimes I'm trying to do streams, I'm thinking, right, I want to say this, but I haven't got a thumbnail to match that, so I'm trying to do this. And what I'd love to have done today is have a proper thumbnail, talking about the future of the club being in jeopardy. Because I really want to know what FSG's plans are. Are they in it for the long haul? Are they just going to let Michael Edwards run down a deal and go in a year? What happens with Richard Hughes? There's so much that, again, I feel like every year we're playing catch-up. We're still chasing down the contracts that were never sorted out. I'm already starting to worry about Dominic Szoboszlai and his future, McAllister and his future. When are we going to see extensions there or not? When are they going to make a definitive decision on Konate? What's happening with Andy Robertson? Is Alisson Becker going to be injury prone? Are we going to see Georgie Mamadashvili more going forward? What happens at right back with Conor Bradley? Are we going to bring in 1 or 2 wingers? Is Chiesa going to go? Was Joe Gomez going to go? What's going to happen with Costas? There's a lot of questions there. A lot. And, I keep coming back to not understanding why in Arna's first year they did nothing in the market. They brought in Chiesa, who the manager clearly didn't want or trust, and they brought in a goalkeeper that was never going to be the first choice for the immediate future. And they let themselves have all this work to do, and now we're still playing catch-up. Can't figure it out. Why can't we just do what we need to do? We've long enough to plan for it. It's inexcusable that we didn't bring in a centre-back in January. Absolutely inexcusable. If you really want to win, if you're FSG and you want to give your manager, that you apparently trust, your fans, who, are invested financially and emotionally in this, if you want to give the best chance of success, you do what Manchester City did. You go out there and you get what's available to come in for the here and now, to push you on. They won a League Cup. We've got them in the FA Cup. They brought in Mark Gay. They brought in Antoine Semenyo. Semenyo with immediate impact as soon as he went into City. But for us, we stood there, watched the player that we wanted last summer, apparently wanted next summer, but didn't want him for 20 million quid. And made excuses about it. And briefed about the wages. That's not owners that want to win. Owners that want to win think, right, we're still in the Champions League. We can still do something in the league and get further up that league table. We're still in the FA Cup. Let's go out there and invest in the squad for the here and now. Sign a Semenyo. Sign a Mark A. Do fucking something. Because the centre-back situation got worse than it was at the end of the summer. Because Giovanni Leone was out. Craig, the Ibu comment was not meant to seem dickish. Oh, not at all, dude. Not at all. Didn't even think for 1 second, mate, we were being a smart ass. Don't worry about it, dude. All good. Right, what's this one? Keane's just set me on something. Right, let me read this one out. So, according to Mundo Deportivo, Liverpool are closely monitoring Jules Koundé as they look to add more defensive, solid right-back option. Barcelona are planning moves for a top striker and a centre-back with names like Julian Alvarez and Alessandro Bastoni in mind. With João Cancelo available as cover, they could use the funds from a potential sale to help finance those targets. Koundé is valued at around 56 million, with Liverpool believed to be willing to go as high as 69 million. I wouldn't say no to Jules Koundé to come in to provide cover and be an option in multiple positions. I don't think that would be a bad signing at all. Don't know how much faith to put in that report, but not the worst idea in the world. I did tell everybody 9 months ago that that Barcelona are going to look to sign Julian Alvarez and that Bastoni is on their radar as well. I see other people are now catching up with that, but what do you guys think on that one? Would you be happy enough to bring in Jules Koundé at Liverpool? Would you think that would be a good addition? Craig, do you remember we tried to get Gertrude on loan the last couple of days of the January window? Yes, I do. Which again just speaks to last minute desperation and not smart long term strategic planning. Because what we should have done is sign Mark Gay. Johnny, how are you, dude? Johnny Page said, "Evening, Craigo. Where would we be if we have got Semenyo, mate? He's a maverick who breaks a few rules of the knock inside, side to side instructions." You know, we had two players there, mate, who for different reasons were available in January. One of them because Palace needed to bring in money, and the other one because Semenyo had a release clause. Now, I'm not saying that Semenyo would have been the be-all and end-all, but he would have ticked a lot of boxes, like you've said. Both-footed, can play on either side, Premier League tested, Richard Hughes would know all about him, and was available for a set number. But the Mark Gay one, Johnny, the Mark Gay one, mate, just seems absolutely nonsensical to me that we didn't want to bring him in. I can't get my head around that. It's so weird that we didn't do anything there. ESPN is posting some articles about Conceição. I've seen some from him, and he would actually be a nice creative attacking option. Don't know all that much about Conceição, to be honest with you, dude, but I have seen the articles that you're talking about. I want to just make sure I haven't missed anything here in my notes, so bear with me 2 seconds. We did the thing about Luis Enrique, didn't I? According to L'Equipe, Luis Enrique is set to become the Ligue 1's highest paid figure with a new deal worth around €20 million per season, surpassing Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembele. Sorry, Conceição. I was thinking of a different Conceição for a minute. Are you talking about Eduardo Conceição? Because we talked about him a little bit earlier. This article here that LFC Transfer Room posted about earlier on said Liverpool have made an inquiry for Palmeiras wonderkid Eduardo Conceição. The club has received 2 offers from the unnamed English clubs and they turned them down thus far. Palmeiras wanted at least £34 million. He's only 16 though. So, you know, realistically, if you did sign him, you're probably not getting him until he's 18 anyway. Elvis Rono said, "Let's be positive." Cool, but in what sense, mate? Because I'm all for wanting to be positive, but we can't just be blasé and be positive. Like, we have to have something to feel positive about. Paul said, "Good shout for Koundé, solid right back." Imagine our faces when Slot lifts the XG trophy at the end of the season. Boy, we will look stupid. Craig, do you think the players we're linked to are slot players or also players that can fit Alonso's style of play? Good question. It's hard to really know because in any transfer window or coming towards it, you're going to see us linked with, and all clubs linked with 20, 25 players. So it's hard to really cut through the noise and figure out exactly who you really want and who is paper talk. The only one right here now that I feel like there's definite concrete rumours to and links to is Ousmane Diamande. Yan Diamande, my apologies, not Ousmane Diamande, not the centre-back. Yan Diamande of Leipzig. That's the one right now that feels very much like an us type of signing. After that, I really don't know what to expect or what profile they're looking for. Because they're going to have contingency plans. They're going to have players that they think can work for any potential managerial target that they want to bring in. With Isak back, are we going to see Ekitike play left wing? Don't know, Nessie. Don't know. You know, how much will Isak play between now and the end of the season? How much of an impact will he be able to have? In a weird way, I was kind of delighted that Sweden qualified for the World Cup, because that gives Isak the summer to go there, play competitive football, and get himself into, you know, good shape. Then have a pre-season with Liverpool, and hopefully we see the best of him next season. You know, will we see him on the left? Will we see two strikers with a 10 behind? I honestly don't know, but I know it's better if we have the options, right? If he's available. You know, we spent a lot of money on him, and I'm sure he's wanting to start repaying that fee and wanting to start scoring goals again as well. So, you know, I've said this quite a bit. Whatever happens next season, whoever is in charge, I genuinely think we're going to be better than we are this season, come what may, because Wirtz will have settled in, as will the other new lads. Isak will be back available. We'll probably have a few more additions, obviously, in over the summer, and, you know, we have a reset and a chance to go again. But I don't want it to be with Arne Slot. To me, the failure to bring in Mark A was the footballing equivalent of willful negligence. There was no satisfactory explanation that could be given, in my opinion. I agree. And it's not like we were being greedy, right? We were just talking about a player who we apparently wanted, who was available, and our need at centre-back had got worse. So this summer, I expect Joe Gomez to go. I'm not sure what happens with Curtis Jones. I definitely expect Fede Chiesa to go. We know Mohamed Salah is going to go. We're not sure what's happening with Konate. We're not sure what's happening with Robertson. And all of those players that I've just named are before we bring in one person through the door. So again, that's a lot of work and a lot of things to sort out in a short period of time, in a condensed summer with a World Cup. Johnny said, I've watched a good amount of Conceição, and in my honest opinion, a good player, but so similar in profile to Harvey would make no sense. That's another one, actually, Johnny, that you've reminded me of that we have to sort out this summer. You know, what happens with Stefan Bajcetic? He's going into the last year of his contract at the end of this season. Do Liverpool give him a new deal, send him out on loan and hope for the best? There's just so much up in the air right now before we start talking about building out the squad. It's going to be another busy summer. What's this? I would love us to go 4-4-2. Kirkes, VVD, Ibu, Dom, because of right back injuries. Mid Maka, Ryan, Wing, Salah, and Wirtz. Then Hugo, Isak as a 2. Yeah, there's not much 4-4-2 these days in club football. But look, you want to find a way to get your best attacking players on the pitch, definitely. You didn't spend 200 million quid on strikers to leave one of them on the bench, so hope that there is a way. I wonder what happens with Cody Gakpo as well this summer, because I said to you guys a few weeks ago that I'd heard that if one of Gakpo or Salah goes, the other one isn't going. And we know now for definite that Mohamed Salah is going. So I'm not really expecting us to sell Cody Gakpo this summer, because then we're scrambling around again. In a dream scenario for me, we'd sign Yan Diamande and Michael Olise. Or dare I say it, Yan Diamande and Anthony Gordon. Then I'd want us to bring in a DM. See what happens at centre-back, sort out the left-back situation, have an honest conversation about Bradley at right-back and go from there. After that, who knows? If you were in charge, how would you organise the midfield? Good question. The way we are at the minute, I would probably play with 2 deeper lying midfielders and give somebody else the freedom to operate, probably Wirtz, in the space between. But again, it depends on the options you have available in wide areas. I love Ryan Gravenberch as a player, and he's got many great attributes, but I've never been convinced he's a 6. Yes, he was a 6 last year in a particular way, and it served us very well. But this season, we're seeing that the league's changed a bit and we're becoming more exposed. So I really would like to see an out-and-out ball winner in there, in the centre of midfield to shield the back 4. And honestly, I'd love us to go to a back 3 next season. Because again, look at the personnel we have. and I think it will be suited to it with regards to the midfield, the forwards, the wing backs. And Arne doesn't seem to really like playing with width. He seems to want us to be a bit more narrow in a lot of the way he sets up. That meme guy said losing Gakpo now would be mental considering the amount of players that's going to go, and if Cody goes, that's another left winger. Yeah, and we also have to be mindful of continuity and experience. So you want players who are young, you want players who are, at the other end of their careers, and you want players who are in the middle. You want to get a good squad balance. And in attack, I think in attack you've got more room for young, hungry players, but you've got to remember about the experience you need in there as well. Mate, can we assume that the info you read on about Leone possibly being loaned comes from Bullshit Island? It's coming from Italy, is where the stories are coming from. I don't see the benefit to us of sending him out on loan, because honestly, he does seem like he's going to make it. And I'd like to see him given more opportunities next year at Liverpool. So I don't see the benefit to us of sending him out on loan to Italy, because it means we're shooting ourselves in the foot and giving ourselves one less option. And if we learned anything from this season, it's that we need more centre-back options. So, yeah, I mean, the story's out there, but I'd be amazed if Liverpool owned him. I really, really would. Craig, as a footballer, Hendo or Keita? Keita clear. Hendo. More consistent. A leader. I hated the way Hendo left, and I had my say about that, but I've always said, as a captain of this football club, he was really good. And an underrated addition and player to the way we played. But it depends what your manager wants. And Jurgen wanted that bite in midfield, and Hendo gave us that. Xhaka is good for a back three, but true, we need more experience and strong players. Yeah, like Xhaka could be good for a back three. I could see us playing with a back three with the players that we have. Leone there, Van Dijk there. If Konate stays, bring in one more and happy days. Do you think Van Dijk is still worth keeping in the starting 11 for next season? With this season as a whole, I've just felt he's been a bit overrated. Open to have my mind changed, love the content. Excuse me. So, yeah, I go back and forth on the Van Dijk thing. If I'm being really honest, I think the captaincy is a distraction for Van Dijk, and I think it's taken away from him just being able to concentrate on his own game and football. Arne talks about him being very vocal and a leader, but I just think that himself and Arne are too similar in the way they go about trying to pass on information to players. And I remember an interview with Virgil, I want to say about 18 months ago, where he talked about it taking a toll on him being the Dutch national team captain and Liverpool captain. Because there's a lot of things come along with being a club captain, a lot of non-football things. And I've never been convinced on Virgil as a captain. No doubts about the man as a footballer and the quality that he has. But I need a bit more aggression from a captain. I need a bit more shithousery from the captain. And I just don't see that in Virgil. So, do I think he's still worth keeping around? Yes. From a footballing perspective, I do. I think Virgil can play for another 2 or 3 years. But he's not going to have the captaincy taken off him, but I'd like to see him not have that distraction. I think that's the kindest way I can put it, because I love him as a player. God, we've been so lucky to have had him. And I still think he's able to do it, but there's been a lot of finger pointing this season from Van Dijk, a lot of waving his arms around, and a lot of gesticulation that I just don't think has sent out the right signals at times. Nasser, how are you, my man? Said, Craig, I saw on The Athletic that they're confident that Ibu's staying. What do you reckon is happening with Ibu? And how will Isak get game time against City and and will Isak get game time against City and PSG? Does he start any game? Right, so on The Athletic thing, We covered it earlier on. I have it here in front of me, actually. So let me just quickly read that out. So the Athletic said, Konate currently earns around £150,000 a week and is seeking an increase that would bring him in line with some of the club's top earners. There was also a piece that said Konate had not given up Liverpool had not given up on convincing Konate to stay, but club sources insist that there has been no breakthrough in talks and an agreement does not feel imminent. Those close to Konate have echoed that feeling. Multiple sources with links to the dressing room that Konate staying at Anfield is currently viewed as more likely than him leaving. So I don't have inside information on this. I really don't. But my own view is the way he's been speaking recently feels like he's speaking about him still being involved in the future. And I don't know what other options he has. Are Madrid interested? Are they not interested? I don't know. They go back and forth with it. But I come back to this. Konate can achieve everything he wants to achieve with Liverpool. And if they can agree a number with him, great. Because we don't need too much change. And, Konate has been a big part of our success in recent history. And yes, he's had a difficult season this season. And yes, there are still things that I feel concerns me with him. But I'd like him to stay. So I hope he stays. If I was a betting man, I'm probably 60-40 that he does, but I don't know for certain. Stargirl, how are you, my friend? Nice to see you. Hope your dad's well as well. Hey, Craig, hope you enjoyed your holiday. I'm still annoyed with the lies. Our midfield has become lightweight, so much for being similar to Kloppo. I was only mentioning you earlier on, Stargirl, for the very thing that you've just mentioned. We've gone, and the reason I brought it up was, we're hearing about Alonso and that it will be a shift away from the style and the way that we play and a big upheaval. But at the same time, we're making allowances for a manager who, as you've rightly said, has come in and not been the similar type style brand of football to Jurgen. And that's seemingly now okay. So the things that we were sold, the vision of a manager that isn't going to have much upheaval, playing a similar style with a similar front foot aggressive approach, you're right, where's that gone? And again, how is that okay? But the idea of bringing in Alonso would be too much upheaval. I don't get it, mate. And I keep coming back to it. You have that stuck in my head, and I can't argue against the word of it. You're right. We were sold the vision of a manager that was going to be similar to Jurgen. And we've seen nothing along those lines. Evening, Craig. Curious to know your take on the signing of a CDM. I know you said we should bring one in, but who should it be? So for me, if I could go out into the world and pick one, realistically, I'd like Anderson from Forest, but I think he goes to Manchester City, and I think Rodri goes to Madrid. Wharton, I would be more than happy with as well. Camavinga, I just don't think is realistic. I don't think Liverpool will make that move, and I think we do need to look at the homegrown aspect of it. I also like, and he's not really an out-and-out DM. He's more of a 6 and an 8. But I like Ederson from Atalanta, and he's available for about 35-40 million euro. But, right, it feels like Wharton is the most Liverpool-type player, or likely, in my estimations. But also, Baleba, very good player there. Yeah, they're the only ones off the top of my head. I mean, you could have a conversation about Angelo Stiller as well. But I think Wharton is probably the one that I would feel is most likely, but Anderson would be the one that I would like personally. And I say that knowing full well that I'm likely going to see him in a Manchester City shirt next season. But, it's my honest answer. Right, I'm going to do about 5 more minutes because then the preview's coming out at 10:45, folks. And I want to hopefully give you guys a chance to watch that. Has anyone actually asked Arna why he's changed the winning style? Don't be silly, mate. Nobody asks Arna important questions like that. It's far more important to just keep making excuses for him and keep pushing the club's narrative. You wouldn't want to be doing silly things like asking him to be accountable. Don't be silly. We can't expect that of our esteemed journalists. Right. Doesn't Ederson have an agreement with Atletico Madrid? He does, but the clubs don't. But that means nothing. Just because Atletico Madrid have an agreement with him doesn't mean if somebody else comes in, they can't blow everybody out of the water. But there is a story, as you've said, that said that he's agreed terms with them on wages. I have it here, 1 second. So the story from Fabrizio Romano is that Atletico Madrid have verbally agreed on personal terms with Ederson as an Atalanta midfielder is a top target. No agreement yet between clubs as talks continue. Around 35-40 million euro fee, but still in negotiations. He's out of contract in June 27. So yeah, agreed with him, but again, if Liverpool came in, could we change his mind? I don't know, but wouldn't be against it. So, to get back, sorry, I missed the part of the gentleman's question earlier on where he asked me about Isak and do I expect to see him in the starting 11? No, I don't expect to see him in the starting 11 until, and I don't know about this, Paris Saint-Germain at home in the second leg maybe. This weekend, I can't guarantee he'll be in the squad, but if he is, I wouldn't expect more than 10 minutes off the bench. The game away against Paris Saint-Germain, probably the same thing. And then, you'd hope that if the season's on the line the following week, you might roll the dice and give him a little bit more. But I don't think it's fair of us to expect him to come straight back in after that amount of time out and be the best version of himself. But anything we can get from him is going to be a bonus between now and the end of the season. Craig, thoughts on Sky Germany linking Schlotterbeck to Man United? I know you've mentioned liking him before. Yeah, I think Schlotterbeck's a really good player. So there's been a bit of mixed messaging coming out of Germany. 1 minute, Plettenberg is saying that, it's all that's needed is the approval from Schlotterbeck and a new deal will be signed to Borussia Dortmund with a release clause for 2027, I think. Then Schlotterbeck himself came out and said, well, that's not actually true. We haven't agreed on anything yet. United need a centre-back, so they should be looking at Schlotterbeck. And Sky in Germany would certainly have better sources than I would on it. But it would be an opportunity missed if he was available and Liverpool weren't in the conversation, because I really think he could be the Virgil van Dijk level of replacement. With regards to leadership, moving forward, right age bracket as well. So yeah, it's worrying because United are being linked with some really good players, but being linked with and signing them are two different things. They need a defensive midfielder or a central midfielder. They need a centre back, probably a left back as well, because I think Luke Shaw's contract is up. So yeah, let's wait and see what happens. Right, folks, let's finish up with this poll. So we asked, do you believe sources that say the club still back Arne? And 67% of you guys said no, you don't believe the sources that are saying the club still back Arne. Right, I'm going to say goodnight to you all, but the preview for the Manchester City game is out in 5 minutes' time. It's scheduled to come out at 10:45. When I did the preview, I didn't know the Frimpong was going to be training and available, so I haven't put him in my starting 11, and I still don't think we should start him against Manchester City. I think we should, if there's any doubt, keep him for Paris Saint-Germain, but if he is 100% fit, cool, no problem with him in there. Other than that, let me know what you think about it when we chat tomorrow. I'll have a news video coming out at about 4 p.m. or 4:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'll be here for a late night agenda tomorrow night. And of course, then our watch along for the Manchester City game will start at 11:30 on Saturday morning in what is going to be a week that probably will decide Arne's fate and of course the fate of our season ahead. Paris Saint-Germain coming up, Manchester City coming up. Fingers crossed for some good results. Thank you so much as always for your support. I'll see you